to share with you a letter from Rachel Carson, whose landmark 1962 book Silent Spring is often credited with helping to launch the modern environmental movement. In addition to her science writing, Rachel Carson exchanged hundreds of letters with a woman named Dorothy Freeman. The two first met in 1953 and remained extremely close until Carson's death of breast cancer in 1964. Writing to each other constantly even after becoming neighbors. Shortly before her death, they worked together to destroy most of their communications. Reading their surviving letters, it becomes clear that Carson and Freeman were two women deeply in love, not only with each other, but with the land they occupied. The following letter was written in September of 1963, about 6 months before Freeman would scatter Carson's ashes on the shores of Sheepscot Bay, Maine. Dear one, this is a postscript to our morning at New Wagon, something I think I can write better than say. For me, it was one of the loveliest of the summer's hours, and all the details will remain in my memory. That blue September sky, the sounds of the wind in the spruces and the surf on the rocks, the gulls busy with their foraging, alighting with deliberate grace, the distant views of Griffith's Head and Todd Point, today so clearly etched, though once half seen in a swirling fog. But most of all, I shall remember the monarchs, that unhurried westward drift of one small winged form after another, each drawn by some invisible force. We talked a little about their migration, their life history. Did they return? We thought not. For most, at least, this was the closing journey of their lives. But it occurred to me this afternoon, remembering that it had been a happy spectacle, that we felt no sadness when we spoke of the fact that there would be no return. And rightly, for when any living thing has come to the end of its life cycle, we accept that end as natural. For the monarch, that cycle is measured in a known span of months. For ourselves, the measure is something else, the span of which we cannot know. But the thought is the same. When that intangible cycle has run its course, it is a natural and not unhappy thing that life comes to an end. That is what those brightly fluttering bits of life taught me this morning. I found a deep happiness in it. So I hope, may you. Thank you for this morning. Rachel.
Dear Dolly, my boyfriend is the biggest chatterbox I have ever met. And what makes it worse is on the rare occasions I manage to get a word in edgewise, he stares at me so vacantly, it's clear he hasn't listened to a word I've said. I want to dump him, but there's a weird reason that I haven't. He's got this third nipple, and it's in the middle of his rib cage, right about here. So when he takes his t-shirt off, his torso resembles a very kind-looking face. His nipples are eyes, and his additional nipple is little nose, and then his belly button, this cute little surprised mouth. Anyway, I've taken to calling him Christopher. And when my boyfriend is sleeping, I have long one-sided conversations with him about my feelings or about what's happened during the day. Christopher is a great listener. And although he never responds, it's clear that he oozes compassion and sympathy. I've even started to develop strong sexual feelings for Christopher and taken to kissing him on the mouth or / belly button when my boyfriend is snoring away. I realize things have gotten out of hand when I became frantic one morning last week when I spotted some belly button fluff in my boyfriend's navel. Take it out, I screamed. Christopher's choking! What should I do?
Oh, Karen. I'd love to say it happens all the time, but that would be a lie. You are a strange, troubled woman, and though I'd normally suggest a straitjacket for the deeply disturbed, in your case, I'd worry about you developing an inappropriate relationship with the buttons used to keep you constrained. Best to put up with your motor-mouth boyfriend if it means you can indulge your oddball fetish. Just promise you won't start introducing Chris to your friends.
In 1934, a New York copywriter by the name of Robert Pirosh quit his well-paid job and headed for Hollywood, determined to begin the career of his dreams as a screenwriter. When he arrived, he gathered the names and addresses of as many directors, producers, and studio executives as he could find, and sent them what is surely one of the greatest, most effective cover letters ever to be written. Dear Sir, I like words. I like fat, buttery words, such as ooze, turpitude, glutinous, toady. I like solemn, angular, creaky words such as straight-laced, cantankerous, pecunious, valedictory. I like spurious, black as white words such as mortician, liquidate, tonsorial, demimonde. I like suave V words such as Svengali, svelte, bravura, verve. I like crunchy, brittle, crackly words such as splinter, grapple, jostle, crusty. I like sullen, crabbed, scowling words such as skulk, glower, scabby, churl. I like, oh heavens, my gracious landsake words, such as tricksy, tucker, genteel, horrid. I like elegant, flowery words, such as estivate, perengrinate, elysium, halcyon. I like wormy, squirmy, mealy words, such as crawl, blubber, squeal, drip. I like sneaky, chuckling words such as cowlick, gurgle, bubble, and burp. I like the word screenwriter better than copywriter. So I decided to quit my job at a New York advertising agency and try my luck in Hollywood. But before taking the plunge, I went to Europe for a year of study, contemplation, and horsing around. I've just returned, and I still like words. May I have a few with you?
It took 9 months for Iggy Pop to reply to then 21-year-old Lawrence's fan letter. But really, the timing couldn't have been more perfect, as on the morning his thoughtful note did arrive, at her home in Paris, Lawrence's family were being evicted by bailiffs. Lawrence recalls that moment back in 1995. Dear Lawrence, thank you for your gorgeous and charming letter. You brighten up my dim life. I read the whole fucking thing, dear. Of course I'd love to see you in your black dress and your white socks too. But most of all, I want to see you take a deep breath and do whatever you must to survive and find something to be that you can love. You're obviously a bright fucking chick with a big heart too, and I want to wish you a belated happy 21st B-Day and happy spirit. I was very miserable and fighting hard on my 21st B-Day too. People booed me on the stage, and I was staying in someone else's house, and I was scared. It's been a long road since then, but pressure never ends in this life. Perforation problems, by the way, means to me also the holes that will always exist in any story we try to make of our lives. So hang on, my love, and grow big and strong and take your hits and keep going. Oh, my love to a really beautiful girl. That's you, Lawrence. Iggy Pop.
As the Spanish-American War loomed in the spring of 1898, celebrity sharpshooter Annie Oakley was internationally famed as a star performer with Buffalo Bill Cody's touring Wild West shows. So famous that she was essentially the world's first female superstar. Annie Oakley was also a patriot, as this generous offer to then U.S. President William McKinley clearly demonstrates. Honorable William McKinley, President. Dear sir, I for one feel confident that your good judgment will carry America safely through without war. But in case of such an event, I am ready to place a company of 50 lady sharpshooters at your disposal. Every one of them will be an American, and as they will furnish their own arms and ammunition, will be little, if any, expense to the government. Very truly, Annie Oakley.
In 1960, pioneering American artists Sol LeWitt and Ava Hess met for the first time and instantly clicked, quickly forming a strong, deep bond. In 1965, halfway through their relationship, Ava found herself facing a creative block during a period of self-doubt, and told Sol of her frustrating predicament. A few weeks later, Sol replied with a wonderful, invaluable letter of advice. Dear Ava, it will be almost a month since you wrote to me, and you have possibly forgotten your state of mind. I doubt it, though. You seem the same as always, and being you, hate every minute of it. Don't. Learn to say F you to the world once in a while. You have every right to. Just stop thinking, worrying, looking over your shoulder, wondering, doubting, fearing, hurting, hoping for some easy way out. Struggling, grasping, confusing, itching, scratching, mumbling, bumbling, grumbling, humbling, stumbling, numbling, rambling, gambling, tumbling, scumbling, scrambling, hitching, hatching, bitching, moaning, groaning, honing, boning, horse-shitting, hair-splitting, nitpicking, piss-trickling, nose-sticking, ass-gouging, eye-poking, finger-pointing, alleyway sneaking, long-waiting, and small-stepping, evil-eyeing, back-scratching, searching, perching, besmirching, grinding away at yourself. Stop it. And just do. From your description, and from what I know of your previous work and your ability, the work you are doing sounds very good. Drawing clean, clear but crazy-like machines, larger and bolder, real nonsense. That sounds fine, wonderful, real nonsense. Do more nonsensical, more crazy, more machines, more breasts, penises, whatever. Make them abound with nonsense. Try and tickle something inside you, your weird humor. You belong in the most secret part of you. Don't worry about cool. Make your own uncool. Make your own world. If you fear, make it work for you. Draw and paint your fear and anxiety, and stop worrying about big, deep things such as to decide on a purpose and way of life, a consistent approach to even some impossible or even an imagined end. You must practice being stupid, dumb, unthinking, empty. Then you will be able to do. I have much confidence in you, and even though you are tormenting yourself, the work you do is very good. Try to do some bad work. The worst you can think of, and see what happens, but mainly relax and let everything go to hell. You are not responsible for the world. You are only responsible for your work, so do it. And don't think that your work has to conform to any preconceived form, idea, or flavor. It can be anything you want it to be. But if life would be easier for you if you stopped working, then stop. But don't punish yourself. However, I think that it is so deeply ingrained in you that you would be easier to do. It seems I do understand your attitude somewhat, anyway, because I go through a similar process every so often. I have an agonizing reappraisal of my work and change everything as much as possible and hate everything I've done and try to do something entirely different and better. Maybe that kind of process is necessary to me, pushing me on and on. The feeling that I can do better than that shit I just did. Maybe you need your agony to accomplish what you do, and maybe it goads you on to do better, but it is very painful to know. It would be better if you had the confidence just to do the stuff and not even think about it. Can't you leave the world and art alone and also quit fondling your ego? I know that you, or anyone, can only work so much, and the rest of the time you are left with your thoughts. But when you work, or before you work, you have to empty your mind and concentrate on what you are doing. After you do something, it is done, and that's that. After a while, You can see some are better than others, but also you can see what direction you are going. I'm sure you know all that. You also must know that you don't have to justify your work, not even to yourself. Well, you know I admire your work greatly, and I can't understand why you're so bothered by it, but you can see the next ones and I can't. You also must believe in your ability. I think that you do. So try the most outrageous things you can. Shock yourself. You have at your power the ability to do anything. I would like to see your work, and I will have to be content to wait until August or September. I've seen photos of some of Tom's new things at Lucy's. They are impressive, especially the ones with the more rigorous form. The simpler ones, I guess he'll send some more on later. Let me know how the shows are going and that kind of stuff. My work has changed since you left, and it's much better. I will be having a show May 4th to the 29th at Daniel's Gallery, 17 East 64th Street, where Emmerich was. I wish you could be there. Much love to you both. Saul.
On March 28th of 1912, an eminent bacteriologist named Olmroth Wright wrote a lengthy, pompous letter to the Times in which he argued that women should not be allowed to vote, and in fact should be kept away from politics altogether, due to their supposed psychological and physiological deficiencies. Unsurprisingly, his opinion generated many responses, the best of which was the following witty letter from one of the doomed, printed in the paper 2 days later. Unbeknownst to all, its sender, CSC, was 26-year-old Clementine Churchill. March 30th, 1912. To the editor of the Times. Sir, after reading Sir Olmroth Wright's able and weighty exposition of women as he knows them, the question seems no longer to be, should women have votes, but ought women not to be abolished altogether? I have been so much impressed by Sir Olmroth Wright's disquisition, backed as it is by so much scientific and personal experience, that I have come to the conclusion that women should be put a stop to. We learn from him that in their youth they are unbalanced, and that from time to time they suffer from unreasonableness and hypersensitiveness, and that their presence is distracting and irritating to men in their daily lives and pursuits. If they take up a profession, the indelicacy of their minds makes them undesirable partners for their male colleagues. Later on in life, they are subject to grave and long-continued mental disorders, and if not quite insane, many of them have to be shut up. Now, this being so, how much happier and better would the world be if only it could be purged of women? It is here that we look to the great scientists. Is the case really hopeless? Women no doubt have had their uses in the past, else how could this detestable tribe have been tolerated till now? But is it quite certain that they will be indispensable in the future? Cannot science give us some assurance, or at least some ground of hope, that we are on the eve of the greatest discovery of all, i.e., how to maintain a race of males by purely scientific means? As we may not look to Sir Olmroth Wright to crown his many achievements by delivering mankind from this parasitic, demented, and immoral species which has infested the world for so long, yours obediently, CSC, one of the doomed.
In November 2015, French journalist Antoine Lyris lost his wife, Helene Moyal, when gunmen opened fire at the Bataclan Theater in Paris, killing her and 86 other people. Days later, Antoine wrote an open letter to his wife's killers. On Friday evening, you stole the life of an exceptional person, the love of my life, the mother of my son, but you will not have my hatred. I don't know who you are, and I don't want to know. You're dead souls. If this God, for whom you kill blindly, made us in his image, every bullet in the body of my wife is a wound in his heart. So no, I will not give you the satisfaction of hating you. You want it, but to respond to hatred with anger would be to give in to the same ignorance that made you what you are. You would like me to be scared, for me to look at my fellow citizens with a suspicious eye, for me to sacrifice my liberty for my security. You have lost. I saw her this morning. At last, after nights and days of waiting, she was as beautiful as when she left on Friday evening, as beautiful as when I fell head over heels in love with her more than 12 years ago. Of course, I am devastated with grief. I grant you this small victory, but it will be short-lived. I know she will be with us every day, and we will find each other in heaven with free souls, which you will never have. Us two, my son and I, we will be stronger than every army in the world. I cannot waste any more time on you, as I must go back to my son, who has just woken from his sleep. He's only just 17 months old. He's going to eat his snack just like every other day. Then we're going to play like every other day, and all his life, this little boy will be happy and free, because you will never have his hatred either. Antoine Lears.
Armistead Maupin's Tales of the City books chronicle the lives and loves of a group of unique people living in San Francisco in the late 1970s. Probably the most beloved of these characters is Michael Tolliver, a gay man who discovers that his parents have joined Anita Bryant's campaign in Florida to quell the rights of gays. He then writes them a letter. Dear Mama, I'm sorry it's taken me so long to write. Every time I write to you and Papa, I realize I'm not saying the things that are in my heart. That would be okay if I loved you any less than I do, but you are still my parents, and I am still your child. I have friends who think I'm foolish to write this letter. I hope they're wrong. I hope their doubts are based on parents who love and trust them less than mine do. I hope especially that you'll see this as an act of love on my part, a sign of my continuing need to share my life with you. I wouldn't have written, I guess, if you hadn't have told me about your involvement in the Save Our Children campaign. That, more than anything, made it clear that my responsibility was to tell you the truth, that your own child is homosexual, and that I never needed saving from anything except the cruel and ignorant piety of people like Anita Bryant. Sorry, Mama. Not for what I am, but for how you must feel at this moment. I know what that feeling is, for I felt it most of my life. Revulsion, shame, disbelief, rejection through fear of something I knew even as a child was as basic to my nature as the color of my eyes. No, Mama, I wasn't recruited. No seasoned homosexual ever served as my mentor. But you know what? I wish someone had. I wish someone older than me and wiser than the people in Orlando had taken me aside and said, "You're all right, kid. You can grow up and be a doctor or a teacher just like anyone else. You're not crazy or sick or evil. You can succeed and be happy and find peace with friends, all kinds of friends who don't give a damn who you go to bed with. Most of all, though, you can love and be loved without hating yourself for it." But no one ever said that to me, Mama. I had to find it out on my own, with the help of the city that has become my home. I know this may be hard for you to believe, but San Francisco is full of men and women, both straight and gay, who don't consider sexuality in measuring the worth of another human being. These aren't radicals or weirdos, Mama. They are shop clerks and bankers and little old ladies and people who nod and smile to you when you meet them on the bus. Their attitude is neither patronizing or pitying, and their message is so simple. Yes, you are a person. Yes, I like you. Yes, it's all right for you to like me too. I know what you must be thinking. You're asking yourself, what did we do wrong? How did we let this happen? Which one of us make him that way? I can't answer that, Mama, but in the long run, I guess I really don't care. All I know is this: if you and Papa are responsible for the way that I am, then I thank you with all my heart, for it's the light and joy of my life. I know I can't tell you what it is to be gay, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not hiding behind words, Mama, like family and decency and Christianity. It's not fearing your body or the pleasures God made for it. It's not judging your neighbor except when he's crass or unkind. Being gay has taught me tolerance, compassion, and humility. It has shown me the limitless possibilities of living. It's given me people whose passion and kindness and sensitivity have provided a constant source of strength. It has brought me into the family of man, Mama, and I like it here. I like it. There's not much else I can say except that I'm the same Michael you've always known. You just know me better now. I've never consciously done anything to hurt you, and never will. Please don't feel you have to answer this right away. It's enough for me to know that I no longer have to hide the lie and lie to people who taught me the value of truth. Mary Ann sends her love. Everything is fine at 28 Barbary Lane. Your loving son, Michael.
In 1990, First Lady Barbara Bush described the television show The Simpsons as the dumbest thing she had ever seen. She could have hardly imagined that such an opinion would elicit a response from Marge Simpson herself. September 28, 1990. Mrs. Barbara Bush, the First Lady, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. Dear First Lady, I recently read your criticism of my family. I was deeply hurt. Heavens knows we're far from perfect, and truth be known, maybe just a wee bit short of normal. But as Dr. Seuss says, a person is a person. I try to teach my children, Bart, Lisa, and even little Maggie, always to give somebody the benefit of the doubt and not talk badly about them, even if they're rich. It's hard to get them to understand this advice when the very first lady in the country calls us not only dumb, but the dumbest thing she ever saw. Ma'am, if we're the dumbest thing you ever saw, Washington must be a good deal different than what they teach me at the current events group at the church. I always believed in my heart that we had a great deal in common, each of us serving an exceptional man. I hope there is some way out of this controversy. I thought, perhaps, it would be a good start to just speak my mind. With great respect, Marge Simpson.
An apologetic reply from the First Lady shortly followed. Dear Marge, how kind of you to write. I'm glad you spoke your mind. I foolishly didn't know you had one. I am looking at a picture of you depicted on a plastic cup, with your blue hair filled with pink birds peeking out all over. Evidently, you and your charming family, Lisa, Homer, Bart, and Maggie, are camping out. It is a nice family scene. Clearly, you are setting a good example for the rest of the country. Please forgive a loose tongue. Warmly, Barbara Bush. P.S. Homer looks like a handsome fella.
Margaret Mead was, for many years, the leading anthropologist on the planet. A year after setting foot on the Samoan island of Tau, Mead learned of a sexual awakening much closer to home, that of her younger sister, Elizabeth. This letter of advice was her response. Elizabeth, dear, I've a good mind to punish you by writing back in pencil. You're a wretch to write in pencil on pink paper just when you're writing something very important that you particularly want me to read. Don't do it again. I'm glad you told me about the moonlight party, dear. It's the sort of thing that had to happen sometime, and it might have been a great deal worse. As it was a nice boy whom you like, and nothing you need worry you. There are two things I'd like you to remember, or in fact several. The thrills you get from touching the body of another person are just as good and legitimate thrills as those you get at the opera. Only the ones you get at the opera are all mixed up with your feelings of beauty and music and life, and so they seem to you good and holy things. In the same way, the best can only be had from the joys which life offers our sense of touch, for sex is mostly a matter of the sense of touch, when we associate those joys with love and respect and understanding. All the real tragedies of sex come from disassociation, either of the old maid who sternly refuses to think about sex at all until finally she can think of nothing else and goes crazy, or of the man who goes from one wanton's arms to another seeking only the immediate sensation of the moment and never linking it up with other parts of his life. It is by the way in which sex, and under this I include warm demonstrative friendships with both sexes as well as love affairs proper with men, is linked with all the other parts of our lives, with our appreciation of music and our tenderness for little children, and most of all with our love for someone and the additional nearness to them which expression of love gives us, that sex itself is given meaning. You must realize that your body has been given to you as an instrument of joy, and that And though you should choose most rigorously whose touch may make that instrument thrill and sing 1,000 beautiful songs, you must never think it wrong of it to sing. For your body was made to sing to another's touch, and the flesh itself is not wise to choose. It is the spirit within the body which must be stern and say, "No, you cannot play on this, my precious instrument. True, it would sing for you. Your fingers are very clever at playing on such instruments, but I do not love you nor respect you, and I will not have my body singing a tune which my soul cannot sing also." If you remember this, you will never be filled with disgust of any sort. Any touch may set the delicate chords humming, but it is your right to choose who shall really play a tune. And be very, very sure of your choices first. To have given a kiss where only a handshake was justified by the love behind it, that is likely to leave a bad taste in your mouth. And for the other part, about being boy crazy, try to think of boys as people. Some nice, some indifferent, not as a class. You aren't girl crazy, are you? Then why should you be boy crazy? If a boy is an interesting person, why, like him. If he isn't, don't. Think of him as an individual first, and as a boy second. What kind of a person he is a great deal more important than that he belongs to the other sex. After all, so do some 100 million other individuals. I am very proud of the way you were able to think through the problems which life brings you, and of the way you meet them. And I consider it a great privilege to have you tell me about them. I'm so glad you're happy, dear. Very lovingly, Margaret.
On the morning of November 29th, 1866, in the Yorkshire village of Middlesmore, the following letter found its way to the home of one Mary Foster, sent by a local farmer named Simon Fallowfield. Mary declined his offer. My dear miss, I now take up my pen to write you, hoping these lines find you as well as it leaves me at present. Thank God for it. You will perhaps be surprised that I make so bold as to write you, who is such a lady, and I hope you will not be vexed at me for it. I hardly dare say what I want. I'm so timid about ladies, and my heart trembles like a hespin. But I once seed in a book that a faint heart never won fair lady. So here goes. I'm a farmer in a small way. My age is rather more than 40 years. And my mother lives with me and keeps me house. And she's been very poorly lately and cannot stir about much. And I think I should be much more comfortable with a wife. I've had my eye on you a long time. I think you're a very nice young woman and one that would make me happy if only you think so. We keep a servant girl to milk 3 key and do the work in the house, and she goes on a bit in the summer to gather wickens and snags a few turnips in the back end. I do a piece of work on the farm myself and attends Patley market. And I sometimes show a few sheep, and I feeds between 3 and 4 pigs again Christmas. And the same is very useful in the house to make pies and cakes and so forth. And I sells the alms to help pay for the barley meal. I'm about £73 in nice Bank, with a very nice parlour downstairs with a blue carpet, and an oven on the side of the fireplace, and an old woman on the other side smoking. The golden rules climbed up the walls above the long settle. And you could sit all day in the easy chair, knit and mend my kittles and my leggums. And you can make tea ready again I come in. And you can make butter for Parley Market. And I would drive you to church every Sunday in the spring cart. And I would do all that be's in my power to make you happy. I do hope to hear from you. I'm desperate and earnest. And I will marry you on May Day. Or, if me mother dies afore, I shall want you afore. If only you will accept of me, my dear, we could be very happy together. I hope you will let me know your mind by return of post. If you are favourable, and I will come up to scratch. So no more at present from your well-wisher and true love, Simon Fallowfield. P.S. I hope you will not say nothing about this. If you will not accept of me, I have a very nice young woman in my eye, and I think I shall marry her if you do not accept of me. But I thought you would suit me better. Me mother better. She been very crusty at times.